All right, hey chemists, this is the Unit 1 Important Information Part 3. We're going to be talking about mass, volume, and then something called density. So let's look at this graph again. We've seen this so many times. From our lab, let's look at the data that we plotted for water here. And look, we have some data over here, like volume is 1.1, mass is like 1, volume is like 5, mass is 5. Volume is like 21.4 and volume is like 21.3 grams. And so here is our graph here. According to the graph, what is the slope of the mass versus volume for water? Now here is our equation. It comes in the form of y equals mx plus b. Y is equal to 1x, essentially minus 0.0314. For the slope, that's the number that's in front of the x, right? It's mx. Our slope is 1. Y equals 1x. The slope is 1. What does this data tell us about the mathematical relationship between the mass and volume of water? Let's choose 2 data points. Remember, our mass are our y values here. Our volume are our x values. To calculate slope is y values, essentially, divided by x values. So what is our slope telling us? We've got mass values over volume values, and that equals 1. So this means, and remember, mass is in grams, volume is in milliliters. That means 1 gram for every 1 milliliter. So if I had 10 milliliters, I should have 10 grams. If I had 100 milliliters, I should have 100 grams. So let's choose 2 data points to justify this. So I highlighted a couple here. If our volume is 5 milliliters, look at the mass. The mass is about the same, 5.1 grams. This is about the same. This is 1 to 1. Let's choose another data point. If the volume was 21.4 milliliters, the mass was 21.3 grams. Again, this is 1 to 1, approximately, right, with some human error here. So if our slope is 1, that means our mass value is equal to our volume value for water. How can we calculate this relationship, which is the slope that is, if it was not given on the graph? Well, don't forget to calculate slope. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I've already circled, and I have the data here, 2 data points. Remember, our x values were volume, so this could be like x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. So we could say y2 is 21.3 minus y1, which is about 5.1, and these are both grams. X2 would be 21.4 minus, and that's milliliters. X1 is about 5, and that's milliliters. You'll never believe it, but when we do this math, we get about 1, and this is gram per milliliter. That's our slope. So don't forget how to calculate slope. Let's look at something that is not water. Let's look at gold, which we've talked about in class. I've got some data here. According to the graph, what is the slope of the mass versus volume for water? We know now to look right here with the x. We've got y is equal to 19.3x. Our slope is equal to 19.3. Let's also calculate it. Let's choose 2 values. I'm just going to use these 2, right? Remember, to calculate slope, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm choosing 2 values here. Y2 will be 96.6 grams minus y1, which is 19.32 grams, over x2, which is 5 milliliters, minus x1, which is 1 milliliter. When we go and do this math, our slope equals 19.3 grams per milliliter. 19.3 grams per 1 milliliter. So the slope that we get from the graph should match our calculation. Is the slope for gold the same for the slope for water? Well, let's double check. No, the slope for water is 1. So, no. Y equals 1x is water. Y equals 19.3x is gold. Which graph has a steeper slope? Steeper means larger rise over run, right? So which one goes up higher, gold or water? It's going to be gold. It has a larger slope. Tougher question. Which substance, gold or water, is showing data that has more mass in a given volume? Well, we've already established that the way that we read the slope, it's a mass per unit of volume. So gold is 19.3 grams for every 1 milliliter. Don't forget that grams is mass, milliliters is volume. Water is only 1 gram per 1 milliliter. So which data has more mass in a given volume? Well, if I had 1 milliliters of both, it looks like my gold is going to have more mass in 1 milliliter, right? So for both water and gold, if I had 1 milliliter of water, I'd only have 1 gram. If I had 1 milliliter of gold, I have 19.3 grams. So gold is showing that data has more mass in a given volume. This relationship between mass and volume is called density. So all that we've been learning here is that this slope, this relationship between mass and volume, that slope, which is the ratio between mass and volume, that is called density. In the next video, we'll be talking more about density graphs. So after you copy these notes, you're going to move on to the next lecture.